Hey everybody, welcome back to Bold Carry. Today's video is going to be a little bit more of a local issue, a Florida issue. Right now with COVID-19 and all the riots that have been happening, concealed weapons permits have gone through the roof. Not only that, but the COVID-19 restrictions have kind of slowed down the government system in and of itself. So we're having a real bad backlog with tax collectors' offices for people to make their first time application for their concealed weapons permit. So everything's kind of backed up. And the regional offices are not open, only the central office in Tallahassee. So what I'm going to be discussing today is how to fill out a concealed weapons license application for Florida so that you can mail it in and kind of jump ahead of the line and not have to wait the 2 to 3 months to get into a tax collector's office. So let's talk about that. General eligibility for this is that you need to be 21 years of age, you need to be a citizen or permanent resident of the United States, and you can't have a disqualifying criminal background. And we'll go over what that background is question by question through this application. So you're going to need a few things to finish this. One, you are going to need a manila envelope, something that will fit your documents without any of them being folded or creased. So, manila envelope. The next thing you're going to need is you are going to need to go on the Florida Department of Agriculture website, FDACS.gov, and print out both the application instructions and the application itself. And that application will have a unique tracking number. So if you're doing multiple applications, make sure you back out of that page and go back so that you get another unique application tracking number. You're also going to need a copy of your firearm training certificate. Don't include the original. Make sure you make a copy of it so that you can retain the original, but that will also need to be in this application. Also, if there's any court documentation that you need to include in your application for dismissal of charges or anything of that nature, include those documents as appropriate. Also, if you're a permanent resident alien or a naturalized citizen, you will need to include appropriate documentation as required by question 5. You will also need to get electronic fingerprinting, which will be done at your local sheriff's office, and you need to get a passport photo, which easy enough to go to Walgreens and get one of those done. That picture does have to be done within the last 30 days. Now, the way I'm going to tell you how to fill this out will be if you are the average concealed carry Joe or Jane and you are not active duty military or law enforcement or retired law enforcement. If you fit any of those descriptions, you will have a little different way of filling out this application. Make those adjustments as necessary. You want to make sure that in this application you are using a pen with black ink, not blue, not red, green, anything else, black ink, and make sure you print in the boxes. Fill out that first section of the application with your information. I would go ahead and include your Social Security, even though it is voluntary. It should help them to more speedily go through your application and check any kind of background that they need to check on. Filling out the personal information on this application is pretty straightforward. The only thing that wasn't quite clear was the place of birth. You will need to include both the city, state, and country of your place of birth. And if you were born in the United States, that can be abbreviated USA. The single letter for race is either going to be W for white, B for black, I for American Indian or Alaska Native, A for Asian, or U for other or unknown. At the bottom of section 1, you're going to indicate whether or not you're active duty military or not. So fill in the appropriate circle. Don't check or X. You're filling in the dot completely. Section number 2, question by question. Here we go. Are you applying for a license as a counselor security official? No. Do you hold an active certification, Florida Criminal Justice Standards and Training Commission? No. Are you a retired Florida law enforcement officer, correctional officer, or correctional probation officer? No. Do you qualify for exemption for the public records law? No. If you answer no to question 3A, you can skip question 3B, as well as question 4A. If you answer no to that, you can also skip question 4B. 5A. Have you ever renounced or formally given up the United States citizenship? No. Are you currently residing in the United States? Yes. Are you a United States citizen? Yes. If no, then you proceed down to 5D. If yes, go to 6. Have you received training with a firearm or as required by Florida statutes? Yes. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Answer this truthfully. Hopefully it's no. Have you ever been adjudicated of guilt, withheld, or imposition of sentence, suspended on any felony charge? Hopefully no. Have you ever had adjudication of guilt, withheld, or imposition of sentence, suspended, or misdemeanor crime of domestic violence? Hopefully that is no as well. Have you ever been convicted, found guilty, or had adjudication withheld on one or more misdemeanor crimes of violence? Hopefully no. Have you been convicted or found guilty of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence? If yes, you are not eligible for licensure. Have you ever been convicted or found guilty of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence? Hopefully that is no, because that is disqualifying if yes. Have you been issued an injunction that is currently in force and effective that restrains you from committing acts of domestic violence or acts of repeat violence? Hopefully that is no, because that is also disqualifying. Have you ever been adjudicated incapacitated, committed to a mental institution, or adjudicated mentally defective? Hopefully no. In the 3 years preceding the date of this application, have you been committed for abuse of a controlled substance or been found guilty or convicted of a crime under provisions Chapter 893? Number 14, during the 3 years preceding the date of this application, have you been committed for the abuse of controlled substances, committed for the abuse of alcoholic beverages, convicted 2 or more times under Section 316.193? Hopefully your answers to all 3 of those are no, because those are also disqualifying. Number 15, are you under arrest or currently charged in any court with a felony, any crime punishable by imprisonment for more than 1 year, or any crime of violence, including crimes of domestic violence? If you're under arrest, please don't be filling out this application. Are you a fugitive from justice, which would include running from the law or even running from testifying in a court of law? Number 17, have you been discharged from the armed forces under dishonorable conditions? Hopefully that is also no, because that is disqualifying. And then Section 3 is pretty easy. It is just your oath. You read each line and make sure that you agree with those statements, and then sign that you agree with those statements. Make sure you also date the time that you make this application. You want to make an appointment to get your electronic fingerprinting done at your local sheriff's office, or maybe a neighboring county's sheriff's office can do that as well, but I would make sure that that sheriff's office is allowing outside residents and not county residents only. Your passport photo can be done at a place like Walgreens. They charge about $15 to take a passport photo. Make sure that when you get that passport photo done, you get that done within the last 30 days before you make your application. Make sure that you are wearing regular clothing that you would wear on a regular basis. No uniforms or camouflage. Sorry guys, I know we're in the South. Head coverings or hats are also not allowed unless that is for religious purposes. So just remember, dress like an average Joe. No headsets, sunglasses, anything like that. Once you get your fingerprinting done and your passport photo, make sure that you include everything that you need in your application packet. Your actual application, you also need to include your certificate of training, You need to include the photo for your passport in there, the receipt for your electronic fingerprinting, and you also need to include payment for the state. Also, if there's any court documentation that you need to include in your application for dismissal of charges or anything of that nature, include those documents as appropriate. Also, if you're a permanent resident alien or a naturalized citizen, you will need to include appropriate documentation as required by question 5. Because you'll be doing the fingerprints at a sheriff's office, you will not need to include that fee for the Department of Agriculture. You'll just include a $55 licensing fee, and make sure that is made out to the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. All right, that's it, everybody. I know that that is a little bit of a hassle, especially with something that is supposed to be an inalienable right. But hopefully in the future we can regain some of this freedom that's been taken from us. But until then, be bold and be safe.